Hey, you guys. Welcome back to Window to Hollywood. So excited to welcome our special guest, manager Kyle Dean. And
Yay.
Kyle, thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Thank you
Spending
for
some
having
time.
me.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. How does it feel getting out of the strike and back to work? What does it feel like?
It
Yeah, how you
it
doing?
feels it feels well, it feels good overall. If I'm being completely honest, it is for me, it was kind of like a weird, surreal, bittersweet kind of experience because I feel like during the strike, because the strike lasted for so long, I feel like I had to readjust my entire life, like work
Mm.
life balance during the strike, because since my work volume was a lot less, I was able to have a more, let's say, healthy balance with like my social and personal life and whatnot. And I kind of got, and it was kind of nice, to be honest, to have a nice like
Mm.
work life balance for once, because pre-strike it's like I'm like 90% work and 10% like so like personal life, kind of a thing, just because I'm a workaholic by nature. And so when the strike had ended, I had kind of like a surreal moment in which I was just like, oh man, I need to readjust like my life back again. So that was the jarring aspect. But of course,
Yeah.
from the business standpoint, of course, super ecstatic that the strike is over and that, people can go back to work. But I think for me, that was like a weird personal realization that I had.
Wow. Yeah, it must be because it's like, managing actors, and actors aren't normal people anyway. So they call you all the time, ask you questions. How's this? How's that? So 90% of that is dealing with actors. How did you first start? Like, did you want to start becoming a manager, or how did you end up in this world, in this entertainment industry?
Yeah, so I didn't know I wanted to pursue representation, let alone management, when I first moved down to LA. After when I was in college, I knew I wanted to work in entertainment. And when I graduated, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do in the industry, but I knew I had to physically be in Los Angeles to do it. And so after graduating, I just, packed my car. Thankfully, I went to school in Northern California. So I just packed my car, drove like the 6 hour drive or whatever down to LA. Um, Kind of like did that moving to LA lifestyle. And it was 2009, so like there was still the recession going on, so the job market wasn't great. And so, beggars can't be choosers. And so I was like applying everywhere. And then next thing you know, I end up falling into an unpaid casting internship.
Hmm.
Because back then it was expected that you do these unpaid internships to pay your dues
Oh yeah.
and whatnot. And so I was doing that, and so I started working in casting. I had never done it before, and it was great. I learned a lot. It was super fast paced. It was very crazy and fun, and I got to meet so many, cool actors and see what that process was like. But after doing that for about almost 2 years, I my takeaway was that I didn't want to be a casting director long term, and so when I was thinking about my next move, because when you're in a casting office, the people I'm talking to with the most are like actors and then their agents
Hmm.
slash managers. And so I knew I wasn't going to be an actor, like for sure, 100% no, never. But
Oh.
but yeah, but being an agent and manager seemed like the most natural fit for me, and so I applied to both, and then but ultimately I think management. I think deep down management, I kind of always knew would be more my style, because
Hmm.
it's less corporate and it's less businessy focused like the big agency lives are, and a big part of management is just developing these long lasting personal relationships with your clients. And I've always kind of been that kind of I've always had that kind of personality where I like building human connections and relationships. And so being able to do that professionally as a manager, I think has was really what drew me to the profession. And then, so yeah, I just applied everywhere. I got an assistant job at a small management company. And it's literally the same management company that I'm still at now. And so fast forward 12 years later, I've been at the same
Wow.
company for over 12 years, and obviously I started off as an assistant. Maybe after like 1 or 2 years, I was promoted um, to a manager and started doing my own thing. But yeah, that kind of brings me to today.
Wow.
What's the name of your company?
Yeah, so the name of the company is AFA Prime Talent. The name itself is relatively new. It's about 2 years old. The company itself has been around for over like 20 years. The partners of the company have been working together for forever. And the previous name of the company was McKee and Myonis Entertainment. But we recently went into a joint venture with Keenan Thompson. Keenan Thompson started his own production company, and he wanted kind of he wanted like a talent management arm to it. And so, the partners of our company got connected with his team, and then it kind of was a match made in heaven. And so we became like the talent side of his company. And so that's why we changed the name to, match his production company name. But yeah, so that's why we changed names. But yeah, but the company itself has been around for forever, and yeah, pretty much the same people are in it. We've all been working there for a really long time, and so it's been a really nice, stable, like family environment.
Nice. Do you
That's
still
great.
work with Keenan Thompson?
Yeah, and we don't actually manage him or anything. His company, of course, is just focused on like producing and developing at the moment. But he's very involved, and he is super super nice to work with. Like whenever we have a question for him or need like his guidance on something, he's always more than happy to jump in and help. And so he's been very supportive on our side, on the talent side.
So his buddy Josh Server is in Masterclass Thursday, and they were in all that together. And Josh recently, he can now share it, but did Good Burger too with because they did Good Burger together. That's so cool. That connection.
Yeah, I remember when I first heard that they were planning on shooting it, because we kind of like got an advance notice, and because of our connection.
That's awesome.
Wow. How, Kyle, how do you first like meet with actors? Um do you is there like a party? Do you like host like an audition? What kind of how do you meet these actors that you've managed? And what interests you about these actors?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately or fortunately, living in Los Angeles, you can't like throw like a pebble like in a hallway and not hit an actor. So meeting actors is very common, and that, in a way, that's a fun, quirky aspect of the business that we live in, especially Los Angeles. And yeah, I mean, I've met all my clients through all sorts of different means. The traditional route is, is through referral. Like an agent I might share a client with might send me their clients' materials and say, hey, so and so is looking for a new manager. Let me know if you're interested. And so those types of referral meetings are very common, set up that way. But I also, do my own scouting. I go to all the different acting school showcases. They have them every year, same time every year, and so I usually try to attend those showcases to scout for next generation of young talent. And so I've certainly signed some actors out of school showcases, and I've also signed actors just like through friends of my clients, through word of mouth, people that I ran into. I've been into some acting classes and saw someone that I liked, and I would hit up their acting teacher and be like, "Oh, I really like so and so. What's their deal? Do they have a manager?" So I found people that way. And nowadays, because of the advent of social media, I've signed a good number of clients purely off of social media. Like I would see someone with like a great look, or like someone on like TikTok who does like really funny characters and is really good with comedy. And more often than not, they don't have like a rep. And so I'll just like, DM them on those apps, and then meet with them. And then I've, signed a handful of clients like that way as well. So yeah, in this business, you really have to kind of like look outside the box, because you can find good talent almost like everywhere. Um, yeah.
Yeah, wow.
There's a there's a big question that I know a lot of actors don't quite know what the difference is between an agent and a manager, and sometimes they kind of don't know, when they're ready. Not every actor is ready to pursue rep, but when they're ready to pursue it, the only thing I say is that like I've seen some of the manager actor relationships be some of the more, personal. They've sort of survived many agent relationships, so it's the manager actor relationship that tends to be the more sort of personal. Like you sort of really like that person. It kind of, I don't know, like there's a lot more that goes to it. But Kyle, what would you say is the the big difference between, because not every manager is going to say their job is the same thing, but what do you do that's different than an agent? How do you describe that?
Yeah, so I guess the main differentiation between agents and managers is that I view agents as more just business oriented. So, they're there to get you jobs, negotiate your deals, make you money. It's all about the bottom line. They're there to book you work and make you money. Essentially, that's kind of like, if I'm stripping everything down, that's essentially what it ends up being. Your manager is there to like guide and help develop your career as a whole. And so that's obviously a very broad definition, and it's very broad because managers, we kind of do a little bit of everything. Especially when actors first starting out and they have no one else on their team, you basically act as like their lawyer, their publicist, their psychiatrist, and like everything that they need. And so yeah, and so yes, there is some overlap with what with what agents do, and we certainly do a lot of that stuff as well. But I think, yeah, the main takeaway is that our full title, we're called personal managers, and so the personal aspect is a big part of what we do. And so I think developing those personal relationships with my clients is a huge part of my managerial style. At least every manager has their own different style, but I've always really liked the more personable approach. And no style is perfect. Everything has its pros and cons, of course. But for me, I've found, and I guess I'm kind of known for just having really solid personal relationships with my clients, because yeah, like the way I see it is, the more I know my clients, if I know their strengths, their weaknesses, their goals, all that stuff, that only helps me work for them better. And of course, if you have a strong personal relationship as your foundation, it does create a stronger sense of loyalty with the client. And so that's why you tend to see actors have the same managers for decades and decades and decades, as opposed to agents, where it's very common for actors just to change agents over the years, and that's normal. Like, that's kind of expected. As your career grows, it's expected for you to upgrade your agents, but managers, for the most part, we're kind of in it for the long haul, and so that's one aspect I think I like about managing, is that we're able to grow with the client, as opposed to like having to be replaced at some point, kind of a thing.
Wow. And right now, how many actors are you managing right now at this point?
Yeah, right now it's probably about around 50, around that level, and I would say that's kind of on the average side, for most managers. And I mean, I guess managers tend to have fewer clients and agents. I think just by our very nature and how we work with clients, because managers are supposed to be more hands-on. And yeah, and so that's a good manageable number for me. But I think every manager takes on the number of clients that they feel like they can take on with their bandwidth. For me personally, with my personal bandwidth, and with specifically the types of clients I work with, that number has been like manageable for me.
Wow, 50. That's a lot. Dealing with 50 weirdos, right? That's kind of
50 unstable personalities. So that's certainly keeps me very full. So like when the strike ended, I was just like, I had to deal with all those people again. but I love them, and I of course want them all to work.
Did your phone get hit up like right away? Was it just like immediate? Like,
yeah, of course. I got multiple texts from clients being like, "Happy end of strike day! Like, now when am I going to get back to work? Like, where are my auditions? Kind of a thing." So
that's great.
So yeah.
What I mean, listen, I get it. What would you say to actors who are wondering, like, whoa, my God, this is like, I don't know which way to move. How do I get back into things? I've said this throughout the strike. Those actors that stayed engaged, planting seeds, building relationships, staying at their Olympic best with their training, they're going to have a massive edge compared to people that said, oh, I'm going to take a vacation until this is over, because those folks, there's not a lot of momentum. What would you say to actors now who are looking to like strategize to get back into things? What would be your advice to them?
like getting back into the things specifically post, like now that the strike is
Well,
over?
yeah, I mean, just kind of like coming out, like emerging after this. Is it just sort of like, okay, go back to what you were before the strike? Is it like, should you give people a little bit of time to collect themselves? Do you think it's going to take some weeks or months to get things back on track? I've heard from an editor recently that streaming is like going to be down, like just across the board. Like, I guess, what does this new world look like now that the strike is over? What are actors in for?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very good question. And I even honestly don't know what that answer will be because, this strike this year was like, the first truly strike of its kind. And like, I think probably almost a century it's been since the last time like the writers and actors struck at the same time, let alone this lasted, I think probably the longest it's ever did. So we're definitely living through history right now. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, I don't know what to expect myself because I've never lived through something like this. Um, I will say, and I was actually kind of surprised in that um, the day after the strike ended, I thought there would be like a gradual but steady ramp up of projects. But honestly, like literally the day after the strike ended, like work picked up right away, which I was kind of surprised by. And in terms of what did pick up, it was mainly network television, and that I knew what was going to happen because a lot of network television they have to shoot, um, you know, on a more set schedule so they can premiere their shows in the fall and whatnot. And of course, most returning network shows they're well-oiled machines, so it's very easy for them just to pick things right up, kind of a thing. And so most of those shows were the shows that are already like starting to cast again, like Law and Order and Grey's Anatomy and all those procedural shows. They're already all starting to cast right now, just because those shows are they're more formulaic, and so they're easier just to pick right back up, and they're all casting right now. And so there's definitely a lot more work to be had. And yeah, but I've seen it's mainly been in like the network television space. But I guess to go back to your original question in terms of what actors can do. I mean, honestly, now it's like it's all about hitting the ground running. And so if you were one of those actors who spent the entire strikecation just going on vacation and not doing anything else, I mean, I guess going on vacationing for your mental health is a good thing. But but obviously, to your point, it is important for actors to have been still keeping up with acting class, and networking when they can, trying to be as productive as possible during the strike. And I think the most important thing that any actor should have done during the strike, or should be doing right now, is just making sure all the materials are up to date, because during the strike was like the best time to be like, oh, now I can finally add so and so television show footage to my reel and finally revamp all that stuff. And so I feel like every actor who had the who's what am I trying to say? Every responsible actor, I think, worked on their demo reel to make sure everything was like up to snuff for when the strike ends. And so hopefully there are some actors out there that did that.
What do you think of like actors that are like in foreign territories now, working in their own countries, that are wanting to work in Hollywood or wanting to work in the US? Any advice for them how to meet people like you, how to meet managers, how to meet in order to do that? What kind of things should they be aware of? What kind of antennas should they have ready in order to come?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of how to meet people, it's really no different. It doesn't really matter where you live these days, just because of technology and social media. So it's really easy just to meet people in general. Like, once again, I've met and signed people like just through Instagram, like direct messaging, and so that it's very easy to connect with people as an international talent. But I think and you and I have talked about this, Eugene, that the most important aspect for any international client is language. Unfortunately, especially if you're in a country where English isn't really the primary language, compared to other places like, of course, like Canada, the UK, Australia, New Zealand. Of course, those countries are fine pretty much, but for like Asian countries and European countries, having mastery of the English language is, I think, the first and foremost step if that person is truly interested in eventually crossing over to the US. Yeah, being able to speak English, and if possible, being able to like do an American accent, which of course is not easy, and sometimes for some people it's just impossible for them to just some people will always have like a thick, heavy accent to their English, kind of a thing. Just I think some languages are just really really hard to reduce. To do that American accent compared to the others, like how it's relatively easy to go from a British accent to American accent, like that's not that hard, but to go from like having like a heavy Japanese accent to then switching to a perfect American English, like that transition tends to be harder. And I don't think I've ever seen a single actor be able to do that, like a single actor that speaks with like a legitimate like natural Japanese accent, and then they can just flip a switch and do perfect American. I don't think I've ever seen someone do that as a skill, but truly that's what will differentiate your potential, your crossover potential in Hollywood. Because if you do ultimately have an accent, then you're really only going to be relegated to roles and opportunities in the US for characters that require accents, i.e. like the international characters and whatnot, which of course isn't a bad thing. There are so many international actors in the world who are doing just fine and they have accents and whatnot. But it does make it harder. And so, I think those international actors that have a good command of the English language, of course, they'll, just because of that, they will have like an edge up in the industry in terms of working in Hollywood.
So if somebody like flipped it on and flipped it off, that would like impress the hell out of you, right? I mean, like,
truly.
Yeah.
I better work on it.
I was gonna ask you what you thought about this. It's so interesting. I had one of those indentured casting internships when I first moved to LA many years ago with a casting director named Nancy Nair, who's actually a relative. Was a casting slave for a time. And I was very interested in like the fact that what I loved about what she did was she'd go out to Venice Beach with a Polaroid camera. And what is it that they're looking for? Over the years, I've kind of formulated it to like looking for people who are lit up. Like it's you can't really describe it, but like lit up. There's something about them. What is your criteria for like good versus great, Kyle? Like, is it just a feeling that you have? Do you look for something? Yeah, the accent thing. What could you point to as the difference between good versus great with regards to the actors that you're looking at?
That's a very good question. I mean, in terms of what I look for in my own potential clients, there are of course always a number of factors that I take into account. For me, yes, like their actual acting ability, of course, is important, but I think I also gauge that in tandem with their potential. I guess because if you're like an actor right out of drama school or whatever, even though you're classically trained, you're still very inexperienced in the ways of like how actual Hollywood auditions work, what it's like to actually be on set, and so they have a lot to learn and whatnot. And so being able to spot the talent that you think has that ability to grow. And of course, there's no way, of course, anyone I'll 100% be able to know if that person will have what it takes. And that's just, that's how the relationship works over time. I get to know someone better. And then over time I can, gauge like their strengths, their weaknesses, and where they are, and whatnot. So judging those aspects is a big aspect of me. But honestly, I would say, so besides for like their potential and training and their look, of course, is a factor as well. For me, their personality is, I think, one of the hugest criteria for me personally, because we're called personal managers for a reason, and me in particular, I pride myself on having long-standing personal relationships with all my clients. Many of my clients have been with me for like almost 10 years, over 10 years, kind of a thing. Awesome. And they're not applying for that long, like for like coincidentally, they do it because we get along and as like people, and it works. So I truly try and gauge a client's personality, and basically just like it's kind of like dating in a way. Like, when you first meet someone, you have to kind of feel them out, see if you're compatible. And yeah, because like the energies just have to match. If there's someone who has a very strong or different personality that I already know isn't gonna like jive with me, that will probably be like a huge factor into whether or not I take them on. Just because even if they're super super talented and they're already making a lot of money and working or whatever, if they're like extremely difficult to work with, and if they're gonna make me pull my hair out every single day when I have to deal with them, like it's not worth it. Life is too short to be having that much stress for someone just because like they don't have a great personality or they're not a nice person. So truly, that's one of the biggest aspects of what I look for in a possible client, just because I'm in it I'm in it for the long haul, and I'm in it to develop them. And so if I can see like good potential and like a good work ethic and a good heart and and personality, then those are some of like my biggest criteria.
Have you ever trained acting? I mean, have you?
No, no formal training. Have I even taken an acting class before? I think I've taken like maybe one improv class in my entire life. But yeah, no formal acting training on my end.
Would you like to? Just kidding.
Now? No.
I don't have time for that anymore.
We're
I
going
don't
to
have
do a
time.
session now.
Can I ask you? I have two questions. One's, what was like the worst? I don't know if you want to go there, but what was like the worst experience you had being a manager?
I mean, that's always a juicy question because it's always something bonkers. I think for me, thankfully, I haven't had any super 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 crazy experiences. Like, you hear the stereotypical like Hollywood stories of like, like a manager having to take their client to rehab and like all that stuff like that. Thankfully, I haven't had to do anything that drastic yet. Eugene, watch your drinking. But yeah, no, I think that there have just been times where what can I say slash should am allowed to say? Yeah, I mean, I think one go to story that I tend to use a lot is I was at Comic-Con many years ago, and I was there to look after several clients. And there was one client in particular, they for one reason or another, they got really inebriated or whatever at one of the many parties at Comic-Con, and I had to take them, escort them back to their hotel. And it was a chaotic experience because like they were like, of course, like throwing up and whatnot, but it wasn't like your average like drunk because like it was like bad, if that makes sense. Like it was like really bad, and I think and that person was even suspected that someone might have put something in their drink. Who knows? But then like there was like another.
That's terrible.
But one of their like celebrity friends was also there, and I think they were also kind of drunk as well. So literally, when I'm trying to take care of this client, I have like this big, well-known celebrity literally knocking on the door, yelling at me, and just like, what is going on right now? And this was pretty early on in my career. Like this is like probably right after I first got promoted, so I'm like still like a baby junior manager, and I'm dealing with all this right now. And I was just like, what is happening? And ultimately, that client we ended up having to call an ambulance, and we had to take them to the hospital. But since it's Comic-Con, it's a hotel, we had to make sure they were taken out of the hotel through like the back elevator ways, and they were gurneyed off to the hospital that night to get cleansed and sober up and whatnot. But yeah, dealing with all of that for the first time was a little crazy.
That sounds like every day in Japan. No, but what an experience. That's crazy. The other one is, what's like the best experience you had? It was like, I'm so happy I became a manager, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think just every single time a client books like that job that makes a huge, is the one huge job that will like move their career to the next level. And actually, and it doesn't even have to be that, but like a client just booking like their first like really cool job, and just like seeing them light up, and seeing like their reaction like that still never gets old to me. That truly is the best part of my job. Like the phone call I get to make when I call them and be like, "Hey, guess what? You booked the part," and then they like start crying on the phone, and then I laugh at them, and whatnot. But yeah, I mean that's still to this day still the best part of what I do. Um, yeah.
That's beautiful. No, really, that's so beautiful. That moment. That's the moment that every actor just in sort of they hang on to those moments, and then they with the mindset work they really construct those moments of the manager, you calling them, and yeah, there's a lot of tears involved. That's beautiful. We well, in our community and with the acting is that we prioritize fun. We get actors to find the fun in the work again. Sometimes they get far adrift from it. What's your relationship, Kyle, with fun? I mean, it's obvious, like you love what you do and you're really good at it. Um, where does I don't know, how do you where does fun fit in your life and your career?
Yeah, I mean, fun definitely is extremely important in this business because if you have like everyone in this business has to love and enjoy what we do because it's a very chaotic industry with more with ups and downs, mainly downs. And so if you're not loving what you're doing and you're putting yourself through all the misery that this business brings, then it's not worth it. And find something that makes you happy. And so of course, like I think for me, the aspect of the job itself that's fun is of course just like the relationships with my clients. Like I said, most of my clients have been with me for like years and years and decades, and they're basically extensions of my own family. And so, just like the simple stuff of like when I get to like catch up with a client over dinner or over drinks, or when I fly to Vancouver to visit a client on set and stuff like that. That's some of the fun aspects of my job is just being able to hang out with clients, like going with the client. It's like a huge, big like Hollywood premiere. Like that's always like fun and crazy. So those elements of my job certainly keep things fun and exciting. And yeah, then of course like on outside of work, I typical fun stuff like just like hanging out with friends, catching up with friends over like going to trying new restaurants, seeing movies, stuff like that.
What's your favorite place right now to eat? Where's your favorite? It's like not like you may have many, but like the thing you crave, you think about more than others.
Huh. That is a good question.
It's okay if you don't know.
It's that place, or this place.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to usually crave like Korean barbecue on a pretty regular basis, and I live in Koreatown, and so it's so my options are limitless pretty much, and so and there's so many great great K barbecue places. I don't really have just like one favorite just because there's just so many great ones, and so I feel like like Korean barbecue as a genre and a type of food, I definitely crave that regularly. Yeah, absolutely.
One of my favorite places, did you ever go to the Beverly Soon tofu place? It closed
Yes.
during the pandemic. It was
Yes.
one of like the great catastrophes of culinary.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like
Ah.
that was one of like the best like sundubu tofu restaurants, and yeah, they shuttered over the pandemic, and that was a tragedy because they
Oh,
were
so bad.
like so good, so good.
Yeah, I knew the owner pretty well. She was kind of like wanting to get out of the business a little bit, but
Mhm.
yeah, that was one of the biggest food losses for me.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. We're on to food now.
No idea, because like Kyle has his birthday, and a bunch of actors gather for his birthday. But it's great because all the actors are all nice people. And it's Kyle right in the center of it all. It's interesting, and you could kind of really understand Kyle in many ways. So it's kind of it's a lovely gathering.
That's nice. Like an annual thing that you do with your actors.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even just for my clients. Like for my birthday, I've always done something for my birthday every year that I've lived out here, and it usually just pertains to I just pick like a random bar, and just tell everyone just to show up, and thankfully, I always get like a pretty good turnout, because I've been living in LA for over 14 years now, so I've built a nice solid group of like friends and communities and like clients and whatnot. And so it's truly like a great hodgepodge mix of people. Because I have like my client family that are there. I have like my business coworkers and associates and industry friends, like agent friends, manager friends, producer friends. Then I have just a bunch of like actor friends there, and I have like friends who I knew from college, and whatnot. And so it's just like a huge melting pot of all these different people. And yeah, for the most part, everyone is nice. Because of course, I wouldn't invite them to my party if they weren't nice. Because I'm all about good vibes and good people. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That is I completely agree. It's always about good vibes, and everybody has good vibes. Do you have a goal where you want to go from here? As a manager, do you want to create something? Do you want to, do you still have dreams that you want to, make happen?
Yeah, definitely. What should I say? I mean, short answer, yes, of course. I do have other goals and dreams. I mean, for the time, at least for in terms of like being a manager, I don't see myself doing anything different anytime soon. I feel like at this point, I don't have any other life skills that I could do other than working representation, and so I definitely see myself managing for the long haul. But I think just being able to, I think for me, the goal is to, of course, just like continue breaking out my clients and working with, developing their careers and bringing it to the next level. I think is of course always like the dream just to have like a roster of. I think it's like every rep's dream to have like a roster, and like everyone on that roster are like well known, established, and making you a bunch of money. Like that's like I think the dream for any rep. Um, but I think for me specifically, because most of the clients that I represent are people of color. They're BIPOC, disabled, queer. I do, am very passionate about working with talent from marginalized communities, and that's literally the bulk of my of my roster. And so, what helps drive me always towards my goals is that I'm all about positive and more representation of these people from these different communities, and so that's what gives my job that extra layer of meaning, because if I can put like an amazing like Asian actor as like the lead of like a big feature film franchise, yes, it's good for their career, yes, it's a lot of money and whatnot, but then if the next generation of like young Asian American kids can like watch that movie and be like, oh, I could be an actor too one day because I see myself there. If I can help contribute to like that type of next generation, then yeah, that's kind of like what gives my job meaning and why I still do what I do. But yeah.
You're like a manager superhero. That's insanely cool. That's awesome. Because of the strike, is there anything that like you were like, I don't know, like you were sort of, you couldn't talk about that you're excited to talk about now, or not that you can now, but I don't know, is there something that you're especially proud of, or some like big win recently, or some, I don't know, some show that a client's on that you're excited to talk about if you can?
Yeah, I mean that was kind of like the bummer of the strike, is that no one could talk about well, and by no one mainly just actors, and then also and by proxy their reps were not allowed to promote their clients either, and so I had a handful of clients like have TV shows and movies premiere over the strike that I wish I could have like proudly like told people about social like online and whatnot, but yeah, I think trying to think. I have a client on the Apple series Invasion. Shioli Kutsuna. That show premiered like in the heart of the strike, so there was like zero promotion around the show. But season two, which everyone should check out because it's all available streaming on Apple. It's a great show, of course, and and my client is of course amazing in it. And that was just like a bummer to be like to watch each episode every single week and be like, this is an amazing episode, but I can't talk about it. I can't like put buzz out there. And so that was always kind of like like if only. And of course, I'm sure I'm sure actors felt even worse because they're just like, we can't promote ourselves and help ourselves and all that stuff because like shameless self-promotion as an actor, for better or worse, is an important aspect of what they have to do.
So hard.
And so like, that's one project. I have another client that's coming out in this new another new series for Apple. It's like the new Godzilla series called Monarch: Legacy of Monsters, and that actually drops this Friday, November 18th. And so thankfully they'll be able to do some promotion for that show because the strike is now over. But so it is exciting to now be able to talk about that show now.
Congratulations. Shioli is amazing. Okay, I watched the whole first season. See, I didn't even know the second season was released. I cannot wait. I'm going to be doing that
amazing.
later.
It's like her role is even bigger and better in the second season. So
yeah, we know her pretty well. That first season was awesome. So yeah, I'm super psyched about that.
Yeah, Shioli's awesome. She's awesome.
Okay, so this was one of the hardest things where, some of the shows that came out around the time of the strike, the A-listers, the leading actors got to do some round of promotion, and other actors that were a part of it, this was some of their biggest break. It was one of their biggest breaks, and they couldn't do anything, and it was so frustrating. What could an actor do? Let's say an actor was in like a really big summer feature, and like, the stars got to do their promo. It would have been really great for the actor to do the promo. What can that actor do? I think there's a lot they can do, but I'd love to know what you think they can do to draw attention to the fact that they were a part of a really exciting project that happened during the strike.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting question, and that I'm sure many actors had to face that dilemma once the strike ended. I mean, I think that they're all pretty much already doing it, like probably promoting it on their social media and all that stuff. I mean, everyone uses social media nowadays to promote their projects, so I would assume they've already blasted everything out they can on their social media, and like it's hard to. I can't think of other things to do beyond that.
Maybe from your perspective as a manager, let's say instead of like trying to figure out what an actor would do, like if it's you and like one of your clients, like, man, this was like one of like a really big booking that could take their career from one level to the next, and they couldn't capture the momentum. I guess is it just sort of like, well, trust that like, they're in that and it's coming out, and like, let's just let that take it? Or is there something that you would do to focus the attention of a casting or a production company towards that actor, I guess?
Yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, it's tricky because, of course, there are always outside factors, like if the show or project that they were in and that came out if it was a huge smash hit success, of course, that's a huge factor. If they were in like a project that, didn't get as many eyeballs, that does take more like of a grassroots effort, both on them and their rep side. And so I think if they can, getting like that footage available from whatever project came out. And I think, with their, working with their reps, just sending out, reaching out to casting directors, producers, creative execs, etc., and being like, oh, hey, by the way, over the pandemic, I'm not sure if you got a chance to watch, this show, but, you should check out my client in this. And here's a demo reel with some of their like highlights from the season and stuff like that. So you can certainly do that as well. But it's tough because I feel like everyone is probably doing that right now, and so I feel bad. I probably feel bad for casting directors because they're probably just being inundated with like all these different pitches right now as well. But it's all about like that promotion and that self promotion and getting your stuff out there. But it's definitely like a rat race right now, just because everyone is just running around trying to figure this out
for sure. Yeah.
Is there something that you would have, if you could like talk back to the version of yourself just getting started, what would you like to let that younger version of yourself know based on some wisdom you have today? If you could have known something at the start of your journey doing this, what would that be, if anything?
I'd be like, don't be a manager.
Ah, no. Are you serious, or is you?
No. Yeah. Huh.
I mean, that could be valid.
What would I tell my younger self? Well, I guess there if I'm being really really specific, there have been a couple of clients where that I got a chance to meet with and like possibly work with, and like for like one reason or another, like I was like on the fence about them, or I decided not to take them on, and then all of a sudden I see them like blow up and become like huge. I definitely have like an actor or two. I'm just like, I could have worked with that person, kind of a thing. So if I could go back in time, I'd be like, made sure to
That's
not
cool.
pass up on that person, like take that
Like
meeting, type of a thing. So yeah, but at the end of the day, I always say, everything happens for a reason. Because if I didn't take them on, it's probably because I felt something in my gut that it wasn't going to work, or I didn't have enough bandwidth or passion at the time. And so yeah, so and obviously good for them for doing well now. But yeah, and that happens with every rep. Like I'm sure every rep has like stories of like, I passed up on meeting with so and so, and now they're like the next biggest like superstar kind of a thing. But yeah, I probably like give like insider trading advice to my past self, basically.
Now, I feel like if you're acting with passion, which you obviously are, you have such a powerful purpose and it's fun. Yeah, what is for you won't go by you. You're like you're on the right track. Everything happens for a reason. Absolutely. It's awesome to get to know you better, Kyle. I know you've been coming into the community over the years and stuff, but just to kind of like hang out a little bit.
I think it's so great because I think a lot of the these actors out there that don't know, and they think managers are like businessy and very money and agents and all that, and then when they see you and talk, hear you talk, they'll be like, they're human.
Oh yeah.
I mean, because it's no, it's so important, because it's just values, and you're a lovely human being, so it's great.
Thank you, Eugene.
Kyle, thank you so much.
Yes, really.
So greatly appreciate your time and like just sharing a bit of yourself with everybody on our channel. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
No, this is
Enjoy.
great. Thank you. Arigato gozaimasu.
Eugene, as always, thank you.
Thank you,
And
Joseph.
Kyle, thank you again. And
Yeah.
you guys, for those of you who watch and subscribers, new subscribers, yeah, talk to us. Tell us what's going on. Check, obviously, subscribe, hit the notification bell. I always love that question. Is there something that you would say to that younger version of yourself? It's a fun one. I could go into a lot of different things, but let us know in the comments. And thank you so much for supporting the work we do and the videos. Thank you guys.